Orlando Pirates made a late comeback to make sure that Mamelodi Sundowns did not walk away victorious at Orlando Stadium. But how did Orlando Pirates do this? We'll look at how they defended, how they attacked, why were they so dangerous in transition, and some things that they might need to fix because Sundowns were already trying to pull on the thread of weaknesses. So let's get into the video. Hello and welcome to the Cutback with Mpilo. I am Mpilo. We analyze football matches here, specifically South African football matches. So do subscribe to the channel if you are vibing with that type of content. So let's start with how Pirates were set up in defense. They were playing with this very narrow 4-4-2, which was trying to block any passes into the middle. As you can see here, Teto Maswanganyi is pressing Cupido, but with his cover shadow, basically, he's not allowing any pass to go to Umaselo Allende. That's depriving him of the ball. You have Sebelebele being tight as well and narrow in midfield to make sure that Modiba does not get the ball. You have either it would be Umbata or it would be Unduli being tight on Tembazwane, again making sure it doesn't get the ball. And then you have Umbata staying on Salez, who basically has become their new Repero Costa because he makes things happen for them. And you have Hoto being on double duty. He can either press up on Dunyelwa or he can also push up on Salez in case the other midfielders are occupied. And you have Vurele Mfokeng who can push up and press a Cupido or track back with Dunyelwa. And I did not forget about Mahopa, whose role was to basically direct traffic and force defenders to play one side or the other. And we're going to have a look at that. So now, what you also notice here is that Sundowns, because they couldn't play the ball because they were so tightly pressed, they would then look to switch the ball to Matthews. But Van Rooyen would be there, or since Sundowns were pressed so high, they would then play the pass under pressure, which would mean the passes are not that accurate and such things would happen. And you saw that Pirates were very coordinated in their press. Here is Saleh trying to drop and collect the ball. Hoto tracks him. But it's not only Hoto who moves up to congest that area and basically force Sundowns to make sure that they don't get any space on the ball. So you have all of them pushing up and pressing Sundowns. And here is the example of Mahopa forcing Sundowns to play one way. You see, he's now between the defenders and thus forcing the pass to be played across, not just to the other defender, but to Modiba. And as that happens, now Sebelebele has to step up. When he sees that it's not Modiba who's getting the ball, he steps back. He only gets active once the ball is played to Modiba, who's now forced to try and play a forward pass. And Van Rooyen is very tight on Matthews, and they end up winning the ball. Now, Sebelebele would move up to press, right? As you can see on the picture. But this would leave CM in a very weird space because Reyners' positioning, as you can even see here, he's on the right with Mbogazi, which meant CM was not with anyone. So he looked lost. And look at this. You see now he doesn't know whether to step up or do what. And because of that, his hesitation makes Ikram Reyners make that run into the space and then the ball can be played there. And it's not only there because here again, Siema does not know whether to step up to Matthews or to stay in that line. And as he hesitates, Matthews makes a run past him, the ball is chipped over Siema and they almost consider goal. Here again, later on in the game, Siema does step up and he does win the game. I think it does win the ball. I think he was told at halftime that, listen, when you're stepping up, just decide. Either you go out or you stay, but don't be in between. But I think that Sundowns setting up Reyners to be on the side of Mbogazi was for that reason. Because imagine if you are Reyners, your run is starting from Siema to Mbogazi. Who's a better defender? Obviously Mbogazi. So he's going to start by the side of Mbogazi and run towards the side of Siema, who they see obviously as a weaker defender, right? And also, as you saw earlier on in the video, we showed that maybe I can even show you here. I showed you here that Umahopa, look at his pressing. You see that Mahopa's pressing was trying to keep Sundowns playing the ball down the right, Why did they want Sundowns to play the ball on the right side of Sundowns, which is on the left of Pirates? Well, obvious answer, because on the left of Pirates there's Mbogas. On the left of Pirates there's Hoto. But on the right there's Ufan Royen, who the coach doesn't seem to be trusting. But there's also Siema, who's very new. And there's Usebelebele, who's also new. So they're probably trusting the other side because they are better when it comes to dealing with such things. Which then makes us and brings us to where we left off. So the ball is played behind, and yeah, Umbogazi is there at times, obviously, to cover, but it was just becoming problematic for the Pirates at times. This, by the way, even though he had stepped up and won the ball, but since he wasn't in control, it ended up being with Tebo Mkwena, who then took a shot. So let's talk about Pirates in transition, because they were very, very good. And it seems like against a team like Sundowns, who are going to have majority of the ball, um, you need to be very good when you get the ball. And Orlando Pirates were very good to a point, because they were able to transition from these positions. They win the ball, they go forward quick, but when they get around the box, they are not decisive enough. You have another situation here where Pirates win the ball back and closer to the goal, but then Mahopa fails to pick the spot. It's crazy business. Now, the other ones, when they scored the goal, you can see that they are transitioning, right? They're defending here. The ball gets to China. He starts an attack, but the ball is blocked again. So now they're transitioning again to defending, right? So now, after they defend, Mbogazi gets the ball, he plays it forward, and then Sebelebele scores. So, three transitions. The ball, first of all, they are defending. It gets to Williams. They're starting an attack. They lose the ball. They're starting another defense. And now they win the ball, and now they're attacking. It looks like the chaos of losing the ball and pressing to win it back seems to suit Pirates more. And I won't be surprised if we start seeing Pirates playing long balls and trying to win the second ball and attacking, because against Sundowns, they basically did that and it worked. They were not kicking the ball all the time, but when they did go direct, or when they did go forward as quickly as they could, it seemed to work for them. Which brings us to then how Pirates were defending corners, because wow. So look at this. Do you see Arthur Sales? Arthur Sales is moving forward to the far post, right to the near post. And as that happens, he drags a few defenders with him, which leaves that huge gap in the center of the 18 area of Orlando Pirates. Tebogo Mokoena says thank you very much. He scores. But it didn't end there, because again, Arthur Sales makes a run forward. The defenders follow him, leaving a gap in that space. Once again, they head the ball. Again, Sales makes a run forward. This time is the one who heads the ball. But you see, there is that space once again, right in the middle of the 18 area of Orlando Pirates. Again, Allende plays the cross into the box. Look at what happens. There is a forward run. There is space again in that in the center. Again, another cross. Forward run, space again. I do not understand how a team can keep on making the same mistake like this, especially since this is from last season rather. Fiston Maele, right at the center of the box of Orlando Pirates, gets a free header. He heads, it's cleared. But the corner that follows, again, there's a forward run, the defender of Pirates follows. Then there's a free header again, right in the center of the box, and then they concede a goal. That's how they missed out on playing a final. And yet they're still having the same problems. So I do not know. I see it. Why are their analysts not seeing it? And why are they not making sure that they defend that area? Because Sundowns are using the same tactic as Pyramids, and every other team should be using the same tactic, because clearly with corners, Pirates seem to struggle. Which brings us to how Pirates were trying to attack. So we know that they have their Van Rooyen and Hoto keeping the width. And since Sundowns were blocking the middle, they were trying to play around the press. There are three ways of playing, of avoiding or beating the press. Some people will make you believe that football always has to be played centrally. But if there is a press, you can play around the press, which is with the wingers, right? Something called wing play. We don't always have to play centrally. There is playing through the press, where you are playing centrally, right? Which is the thing that everyone thinks is the only thing that works. Then there's playing over the press, whether you just kick the ball or you switch the ball from one side to another. So we're about to see Pirates doing all of those things in the game. So you'll tell me in my comments which one you think works better. So this is Pirates. They are playing the ball around the press. So Mbogazi has the ball. He plays it to Hoto. And once they're in the final third, they are now trying to play through the press. But Sundowns were wise to this and they were stopping them. But they tried again to play around the press. And then once they're in the final third, you see the trend. Then they try to drift in field and try to find a through ball. But Sundowns once again were blocking that. Now, again, same thing. They play around the press, and then once Sundowns shift across, they can play the ball back into the middle, try to play now through the press or even over at times. And you see, when they lose the ball, they can counter press and get chances like this. And here's another opportunity again. They are playing around the press, and then once they are in the final third, then they try to get in centrally and then find through balls like this, and then they can try and shoot. Now, this is the over the press one where the ball just goes back and then boom, it goes forward. Sundowns loses the ball, they counter press the Pirates, and then they go forward. Again, the ball is played over, it goes to Hoto, and once it gets there, Mfukeng in the final third, and now they're playing through the press, ball is played across, and then they almost score. You see the pattern. Early on in their build up, they are not trying to play the ball central. They're playing it wide, and when they get to the final third, then they're trying to get it around and combine. Because if you lose it in the middle, then it's a problem, which is exactly what I'm about to show you. Because here's Orlando Pirates losing the ball so close to their goal, almost concede. Again, so close to their goal, almost concede. Again, here, reckless. They lose the ball, it leads to the shot, and then Matthews misses this chance. I don't know how he did it. Again, the ball is lost in the middle, unacceptable. Ball is just thrown away, and then they concede the chance. So, verdict: Pirates needs to fix how they talk to CM. Number two, they know how to play around the press. So there's no need for them to be losing the ball closer to their box because they have shown that they can do it. So I think that this game next week, Sundowns won't mind drawing it 0-0 because, well, they have away goal advantage, whatever. So, yeah. But what did you guys think of the game? I'm tired and I'm running out of words. Subscribe to the channel and check out this video. YouTube thinks you might like it. Bye bye. Subscribe. Share with your friends.